A Gemini.
I was looking for an appropriate, prefix, but I don't know, Ms., Mr. I'm not sure.
That's the great thing about German. We have the pronouns for the neuter. It's all over.
Dirty Das. But I believe we're recording.
Yeah. Exactly. I was about to say the meeting is started, so I appreciate the chatter, but let's roll. Welcome everyone. This is a meeting for Ecma TC54-TG2 for the standardization of Perl. And this meeting is recorded. As always, I remind everyone we're using a code of conduct. So be nice and behave. You have this code of conduct listed on our Git repo, which is the same for all of our TC54 projects. I'm pasting that in the chat for reference. And as you'll see in the chat also, we have a running Google Docs that we use to track meeting notes. And so, and also we have a, so where is our agenda? Running agenda, sorry, that's the running agenda. So we'll start first thing first to approve the meeting minutes of the previous call, which was merged. And let me put the link for reference in the chat.
It's at the top of the running notes as well.
Okay, it's at the top of the running notes at all. So I'll just start by asking if there's any objections about approving last call's minutes. Good. Matt, Salve, Michael, John. All right. If there's no objection, then these minutes are approved. And next up, we're gonna do a roll call for the agenda. So I'll start with you, John.
Nothing from me, Philippe. Thank you.
Okay. Steve? I think you're muted, Steve, maybe. Or you don't have anything to say.
Or we can't hear you.
Yeah. Oh, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, good, good.
Cool. Yeah, I just need to know, same as last time, the status of the various documents, and if we can start actually working on the C markup stuff yet.
Yeah.
I just don't want to wait till the last minute.
Yeah, no, completely. Salve, something you want to bring up?
Mostly interested to touch base on the progress of package URLs and verse. I'm going to, in 25 minutes, attend a CVE numbering authority meeting where they are talking about package URLs today. So I want to see if there's some updates that you can, maybe that you already have some conversation going on with them. So I'm seeing if they don't have spoken with you, maybe I can share something from you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And Matt?
I'd like to get a status on the website effort and perhaps ask for how we might get solicit some early feedback to figure out, make sure we're shaping it in the right way.
Great. All right. And on my side, wanted to bring status, a few reports on sightings and a status update on the spec. So in sequence, maybe we can start with you, Salve, if you need to escape early.
We actually forgot Michael.
Oh, forgot Michael. Sorry, I thought I had asked you, Michael. My bad.
Well, I put mine in the agenda already to clarify the scope of what's actually in the standard versus the core spec. So I know we have tickets about it, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page about that.
Okay, great. All right. So, Salve, if you want to go.
No, the mostly was I'm here to learn if there are something to share with that forum around the state of package URL and specifically the version parts, and what kind of discussions you've had, if you have any. I don't know anything, so I'm just want to come a little bit prepared. So I'm here for I'm asking questions, not offering inputs.
Fair enough. So there's been a lot of discussion, but very specifically, Steve was part of a discussion with the CV quality working group, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Steve.
I'm not sure if it was a quality working group or not, but I have spoken with multiple folks at MITRE
Okay.
who were, really involved in the program.
Yeah. And same thing on my side, different calls, both with the quality working group and with individual at MITRE. There's been a PR floating on the CV schema to add support for Perl. And it was trying to make a combination of Perl plus existing CV conventions for documenting version ranges. And it's been retracted because they wanted to rework the version range part. So, so I don't know where it stands at the moment. It would make sense if they were to consider not only Perl, but also Verse at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it now. In terms of the status of Perl and Verse, we are working towards getting the 1.0 schema, well, the 1.0 spec formally approved and enacted as an Ecma, official Ecma standard by the 15th of December or mid-December 2025 call. Now, if you work backwards, Michael's done quite a bit of work on the planning. We're essentially trying to go for a freeze of the core spec that goes into the standard by the end of the month, because there's a lot of work to do afterwards. First, to ensure that we help and update all the libraries and implementations. Second, to ensure that we can harmonize, dot the I's, cross the T's, and all that kind of things, making sure we have the proper document format for Ecma, and we need to have a period for feedback and comments. Then it's presented officially to the TC54. Then it goes into the spec, into the standard, the official Ecma thing. So that's the process. In terms of content on the spec itself, there's no major breakthrough change that would be bad. So there's no surprise there. There's likely to be a few refinements. So that we're talking about Perl. As soon as we're done on Perl by the end of the month, there's still a lot of work, but we can start more seriously subsequent work on the Perl types, where there's a lot of love that's needed, and Verse. So the question, if CV.org want to adopt Perl in their schema, is do they want to wait for things to be final by mid-December, or do they want to not wait? It won't make a big difference because, again, it's not like the spec. It's not like we're not changing it to pure I. Like I just had a recommendation on there was a Hacker News thread yesterday on an article about Perl, and somebody said, "But oh, you should have called it PURI, not PURL, because this is not a locator." So there's always this discussion. It's like the monster of the Loch Ness. It always comes back, but nobody has seen it really. So I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's anything else there. The thing is, maybe what you can convey to the folks you're discussing with, one, there's always a lot of interest around Perl. It's actually growing. A sign is, for instance, the number of pending unresolved issues and PRs, which we are trying to expunge and close, except that right now it's a bit like a leaky bucket. The more we close, the more there is that come in. So we were a bit below 150 when we really started seriously on the Ecma process back last fall, and now we're at over 200. So which is, no, it's fine, it's okay, but you know, everything requires a little bit of attention. There's a PR that was submitted 2 days ago to add a new type for PowerShell. Now, PowerShell is a repository of new packages for PowerShell scripts. But how different is it from just being an alternative place where you can get nuggets, except these nuggets or NuGet or whatever you call them are strictly PowerShell script as opposed to be general purpose, you know, .NET C# things. We had a discussion not last week but 2 weeks ago with on the community call, a guy from Red Hat, formerly GitHub, about whether GitHub Actions should be something that should be considered its own type. He said, well, you know, originally I thought it was, but now I don't think you should merge that at all, because GitHub Actions are just a repo and a tag, and they're nothing more than that. So, you know, there's all this consideration, but all that, of course, takes time, and some people just don't understand how important it is to consider this. So this is more in the details. I think if you can use one quote that's actually interesting, I'm going to paste that news thread on Hacker News, which are comments about an article published by, I think, Possa. I recall that I'm cross. I didn't read the whole article. I focused on the comments. But there's one guy that made a comment. Can I find the direct link here? I think that's, if you can convey that, that's actually a good quote, which basically says, okay, so Perl is basically the thing that makes SBOM usable for open source, and not just a list of best guesses for, like, with CPs. That's actually pretty, I think, pretty good definition of what it is.
All right, cool. One question, which is not related to the CNA group. Is there a deadline or something for new submissions to be added to the package spec, like a new packaging system, or do you?
No, there's no deadline.
Yeah, okay.
There's no deadline because maybe you forgot about that, but we made an early decision not to include the package types.
Ah, right. Okay, so those
yeah.
Separately.
Yeah. Now I've been also in discussion with folks that maintain a small spec called security.txt, which is one of these well-known files, and they maintain a registry at YANA of the fields that can go in this security.txt file. That could be something we could consider for Perl types in the future. I don't want to put that in the way for us, but we're going to have a schema to describe each of the fields of a Perl type based on the work that Steve started. And I said I would work on it. I didn't yet. But then the types themselves will be external. And I don't know if we need the ceremony of a YANA registration for that, but that's an option. That could be an option, and that will give us or give it a higher level of visibility and some level of standardization. Now, when you register some kind of list at YANA, in this case would be a list of Perl types, there's no versioning. So we'll have to discuss whether we want to version actually the Perl types, with 1, 2, 3, whatever, or a date, which I think is useful for implementers in general.
Probably smart.
Yeah.
If we expect updates, then we should probably have it.
Yeah. And so if we ever go YANA, the YANA route, there's no versioning there. It's just you add stuff and they're mostly forever, but it's purely on incremental.
Right.
Okay. We've lost
Thank
Matt. I hope we didn't lose too much of him, but Matt's back. Great. So maybe we can go first to a status update on the work on the spec. So first we actually merged the important encoding PR. So again, that was long in the making, which means now we really left with name, namespace, and versions. The question about name and namespace encoding for slash has not been decided in a sense. For now, the goal is not to change anything, meaning that slash in a name or namespace will need to be encoded. And really the biggest offender here is Go, which use arbitrarily deep path. So right now, we're going to resolve the Go thing afterwards, just after that. But next step again is just to merge these. Michael actually did quite a bit of work to prepare milestones.
Well, actually, John did most of the work.
So John and Michael did quite a bit of work together, and thank you, John. Sorry, Michael, if you just looked from a distance, but you look like being heavily involved from a distance.
Well, John did most of the work. So, but I would like to maybe talk about my agenda items there, because I think they're relevant to this. So
yeah, completely.
So John and I have put out some milestones, Perl version 90 and Verse version 90 as sort of the final draft milestones, and then the 1.0 is the approved one. But as we go through it, now in the Perl version 90 with several rounds of review, we have what do we have? We have 78 open issues or PRs, and I think, as I look at the data more and more, I find we need to make a distinction between what's in the Ecma standard and what's in the core spec, and those terms are often used interchangeably. So my personal view, and I don't know, there's tickets about this, and I don't think we've had a decision, is that we want the Ecma standard to be relatively thin or relatively lightweight for a number of reasons, and we can always expand it. But we have this deadline coming, among other things. But also, if you look at comparable, or I don't know, the ones I'm always referencing are CycloneDX #1 and SPDX, distant #2, is that they fundamentally define the data structure. I don't know, that's maybe not the right technical term, but they don't. Those specs don't include how to, right? It doesn't tell you how to build an SBOM. It gives you the data that has to be in an SBOM. It doesn't tell you how to test an SBOM. It tells you what the data is. And I propose we follow the same mode, which means that the testing and the the test and the how-tos are part of the spec, but they're not part of the standard. The version 1.0 standard, right? As we evolve, we can. And I don't think we're going to make the dates if we try to make it too expansive. I know there's strong points of view. Maybe, I don't know how many people here have those, but it's just, nobody expects to go read the standard document. I don't know. Nobody I've run into expects to read it and figure out how to do everything. And then it creates a lot of constraints, because if you want to change it, then you have to go through a certain process. So I'm just saying, to get us going, less is more. Exclude the test and the how-to. So that means the scope, as John and I look at it, would be the Perl components, the 7 components, the encoding rules, and the schema for the Perl type, the JSON schema for Perl type. And those 3 things would be what we submit for the formal standard. That doesn't mean we don't have a ton of work to do, but then we work on a separate milestone, which is the Perl, the core spec milestone versus the Ecma standard. So where John, tagged a lot of stuff to give us a rich set of labels. We're going back through it to try, we could easily make that change. But I think that's a decision that's not been clearly made, is what is actually the scope of the standard versus the spec. At a macro level, I don't think anybody disagrees there's some difference, but we have to clarify what that difference is, so that we can put our heads down, and assuming the same approach would apply to burrs. So that, if you go at the standard, you can say, what's the data, how's it organized, what are the validation rules for the data elements, but not writing the steps down like we have today in the document called spec. That's very important stuff, and that needs to go through reasonably formal process, but it doesn't have to be in the Ecma standard.
The EC markup syntax actually has a flag, for lack of a better word, whether or not something is normative or informational. And if we focus on just the normative aspects, the things that actually define the spec, as you were saying, and optionally provide a few examples, because there is a part of the markup that we can provide examples as well. I think that should suffice. I think that what you were describing in terms of the 3 things, I think would fall under normative.
Mm-hmm.
We would also have to, there is in the very first part of the standard, there is the conformance, I think it is.
Yep.
And we'll have to really, really flush that out, to ensure that, if people want to say that they're compliant to Perl, those things would actually be a requirement, and those are non-normative. They're just part of the compliance.
Okay.
The conformance to the spec.
Right, and there's also the front end, right? There's explanation and information about the history and the purpose, and those are all
and that's all information.
Yeah, that all needs to be there. I'm just saying that when you get into the testing and the various techniques, which then get into different Perl types, that starts to become very murky. And for now, leave that out. That doesn't mean we can't put it in at some future point, but if we want to get this thing done, we need to divide and conquer.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. I like it. I'm sold. So unless anyone objects there, that's going to be the way.
Okay, so then John and I will break what's currently called Perl version 090 into 2, the Perl Ecma standard version 90 and the core spec version 90. And we can already do most of that. We can probably do that within a day or so. So
one question for you, Steve, is because of the normative versus informational part. So could we have in the conformance section saying, hey, we expect you to, for conformance, you need to pass the test suite.
Yeah.
And the test suite may not be part of the document itself. It's a link which says, here's the test suite you need to pass at this URL, and we can tag that so when it's in the Ecma informational section, at least there's no ambiguity that that's the version 1 that you need to have matching tests and passing tests for, something like that.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Good.
Okay, well okay, so we will proceed, and I don't call off the top of my head, but I think there are a couple tickets that'll need to be updated for that.
Yeah.
Record that.
Updated and some of them removed also, right?
Yeah, we're gonna close some. You know, there's a classic from Mr. Steve there about setting up the 1.0 milestone. I think, you know, there's been enough discussion. We've got enough milestones, so we'll be closing some tickets, but we'll still have a healthy number. Some of them are very granular, and they're already grouped by, you know, what they apply to, and if it's a component, which component. And so then we just have to tackle the components as we go. There is just a minor change, what you said earlier, Philippe. There is still some questions about the subpath.
Yeah.
We had a long discussion about that, and I don't think they're major issues, but again, decision is pending about the forward slash versus other notation or syntax.
So at this stage, the thing that's important to close is the PR from John on the namespace, by the way. I've pasted that in the chat here. Everything has been resolved. I've been approving that. We need a second approver. We have community approval.
Philippe, I'm going to add a supplemental update for the subpath, at least defining the permitted characters.
Great, but right now I'm talking about the name and namespace components.
Yep.
Yeah. So Steve, if you want to have a look at that after the call, whenever you have time on PR 5453.
Okay.
Remember, for everyone, we move to the two-man's rule or two-person's rule for approval, which I think is a good thing, but it makes it a bit harder.
You have the key. You have the key for the red button. So.
Exactly. No, so I can no longer do seat of the pants PR on the fly.
Right. And then after namespace, it's version, right? John's working on that, but version.
Yeah.
It's kind of work our way left to right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the goal is to have all these ready by the end of the month. And I think, generally speaking, I don't know how you feel, John and Michael, on that, because you're doing the bulk of the work. I'm reasonably comfortable there.
I think we can get there, but it is gonna involve still a fair amount of your involvement, Philippe, to, you know, put the final imprimatur on decisions that have been percolating, as they say in the courts, percolating for quite a while, but have to be finalized.
Yeah.
But I think we can get there. And then again, the idea is for July and August, we are testing those, and we are teeing up resources for that. In the general plan, something that's not there and yet is, I've started a repo called Community, which is about also called, you know, it's usually called, some called outreach or whatever. It's about things that aren't related to the code itself or the spec itself in that sense, but activities that need to happen. And you know, and I'm proposing that, for instance, the discussion that Matt's going to bring up in a second about the website be carried off there, choosing tools, that sort of thing. But the whole outreach to the various communities who, you know, we can communicate in many cases through open items around a Perl type, and people have talked about it. But I brought this up in the last meeting, is we need some thinking about how we talk to the communities in general. So again, in CycloneDX, there's an industry working group, which, as I understand, it's mostly vendors. In our case, in the plan I put out there on Google Doc, that suggests that we have to do some thinking about, I don't love the word ecosystem, but call it whatever we want, but it's the package community. You know, how do we have a forum for that? And particularly when you get to a Perl type, who is authoritative about a particular Perl type? If there's a package community specific question, I don't know the answer to it, but a lot of our activities, like, you know, I don't know who's I think I know who's been working on the Perl implementation. We just lost Solvay, but I don't know who's working on how active some of the other just the implementations that are in a package.url now, how, the various degrees of activity. The spec document I mentioned, I'll post a link in a second here, does have a list of them. But again, how do we reach out to those people? Because those are logical ones to test with. And whether we have resources to do it or whatever, it's been a somewhat dormant line of communication, I guess I would say. So that's my concern there.
If there is anything that you haven't asked for from Ecma themselves in terms of like test suites, if there's any resources that you think you would want to have, you might want to consider documenting those, and we can make a formal ask to Samina. I know TC39 hasn't asked. Now, obviously, JavaScript language is much bigger than Perl, but I mean, they're
actually saying that
they are getting funding for certain test suites and that sort of thing. So I mean,
okay.
That seems to be a desire from Ecma. I don't think necessarily they're structured up to support it quite yet in a formal sense, but we might be one of the first non-TC39s to actually ask for something if we think it'll be beneficial.
Okay, so that's great. So I think there's two things. First, something as simple as a post or an announce saying, hey, we're looking for help from package maintainers to get more involved in the community for Perl. That probably not much of a big ask, and that goes a long way. Help on the testing is definitely something to consider, and that would be super useful. Just as a side note, we've been working, and we may be able to get some funding specifically around Perl validations and helping maintainers of Perl implementations update their implementations to the latest spec. So not clear which shape it's going to take, but we've been working on that, and I may be able to confirm good news in a few weeks about that. So which going to be either support, direct financial support, or just us helping submitting PRs, whichever way it takes, whichever form it takes, it's going to be useful. And to me, important thing is that by the time we present the formal spec to Ecma, there's no scramble rush to say, oh, we need to implement this now. No, it's already there. It's a non-event. Not that we don't want that to be, we want that to be an event, but it's a non-event in the sense of this being adopted there. I don't know if we had a call, if it happened since last call, but there was also CSAF became an ISO standard.
What did?
CSAF. CSAF.
CSF.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just for reference there, and since they also are a big Perl users, that was interesting in the sense that it's you have the non-yet standardized Perl that's already part of an Ecma standard and already part of an ISO standard now.
Well, it's being repeated. FOSSA repeated their interpretation of it. SPDX has an appendix, which is I don't know, I just basically call it, reformatting with the, E.1, E.2, type structure, table contents for the previous one. So we need to find a way to tell people about that, and they'll have to work with that on their timelines.
Yeah.
But it is part of the 2.2 or whatever the ISO one is.
Yeah.
I also let TC54 know during yesterday's call that to expect the document from this TG by that September 1 timeframe. We're expecting just FYI, we're expecting two documents, one from Perl and one from Common Lifecycle Enumeration.
That's great. That's awesome.
Possibly Cyclone, but we'll see.
It's going to be a whirlwind of Cyclone proposal.
Yeah, we're simultaneously working on 1.7 and 2.0, so but the CLE folks are coming along pretty well as well. So
Awesome. Yeah. So status of docs, Steve, nothing much at this stage, except it's going to be, I mean, the more we split the spec versus the standard, in a way, the less eventful it's going to be a conversion.
Right.
So we're going to work with that probably by the end of the month, maybe a bit before.
Okay.
But once we freeze the document, the bulk of the document at the end of the month or before, we can start working on that in earnest.
Okay.
That means dealing with Ecma markup and EC markup and all that, and the tool from TC54-TG2, the JavaScript people, is able to do the conversion from Markdown to EC markup, right?
Well, I'm working on, well, first of all, TC39, they generate all their standards now using EC markup. CycloneDX, I'm in the process of doing that for the CycloneDX spec, and all the other ones, Perl, CLE, etc. They're starting from scratch using EC markup. So, yeah. I think I know it enough at this point where I can author it fairly quickly.
Okay.
So yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult.
Okay, we'll ask you to create a prompt that you'll share with us. A training form. just kidding. Okay. So I think we're good on all that. Michael, is there any other thing you wanted to address?
Well, I think we should move on to Matt's discussion of the website. So on the specification document, I have that out there, and I also have an outreach plan. So it talks about the website and how we're going to make a decision about a mailing list, which we discussed last week. We just need to start getting those protocols in place.
Yep.
And they, those aren't part of the standard, but just operating.
Well, they actually will be part of the standard. The JSON schema for the Perl type, has an ID, and in JSON schema, that domain name is actually part of that, a part of that ID. So I had to make it, and we can change this. I honestly don't care, but I wanted to check in the Perl types schema, but I didn't want to be squatted in terms of a domain.
Right.
So what I simultaneously, before I checked that in, I actually registered the domain that Perl, that JSON schema actually uses, which is perl-spec.org. That's what I registered, just so nobody else would take it. Now we can change it. We can change it. This is not written in stone, but I didn't want to be in a situation where we went ahead with the identity of the JSON schema and we were unable to get the domain, because then we would just been kind of screwed.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And I think I have the package URL.org thing.
Okay.
That would be the more logical one, though, because that's the organization, right? Whereas the Perl spec is a repo. I'm not sure how it's supposed to work, Steve, but I'm guessing that the higher level would be the org level, right? And the repo level.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is just the domain name. If you have package URL, you can change everything to that. I looked for it and it was already registered. So I didn't know if somebody was like squatting on it or what the case was.
Yeah, it was probably me. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you own packageurl.org?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Register that. Excuse me. Yeah, we can use that packageurl.org, and which is a very nice transition to Matt. Oh, just one thing before we part. There's one more thing we need to put as a task in the plan. I don't know if you have it already, John, which is making sure we complete the registration at Yana for
Yeah,
the
there's a ticket.
PKG
There's a
type.
ticket for that.
Yeah, okay, good. Because on this, two things. First, we'll need to change the reference to Nextbee to about code and packageurl.org. That's one thing. Probably packageurl.org would make the most sense. We'll just need to put a few email thing to respond there. But I had a discussion yesterday. So I was at a small event in Belgium yesterday. It was Anthony Harrison, but there was also Maxime Bell from OWASP and your associate at the board, which is Avi Douglan.
Oh yeah, sure, Avi. Yep.
Yeah. And I had a good chat with Avi, and I told him about my writer's block, about how do you come with a threat model and security implication of a package URL. And he's super savvy about that, so it was super helpful. He unblocked me basically.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it was a security related piece that was still missing from the registration, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yana requested that the folks on the mailing list saying, hey, it's like it felt at first, but now I understand better what's the background there. But it felt about at first like you see a yogurt and you say, what are the security implications of a yogurt? And you're like, I don't know. But
yeah,
so,
we had to do the same thing for Cyclone when we registered a few things, and
yeah.
I'm sure SPDX and everybody else had to do that as well. So, yeah.
Matt, you have the floor.
So let me just give you a little status, then share some visual artifacts that will help you understand what I'll be asking of this austere group. So again, I've got two intrepid developers who I met with Wednesday morning, and I took them through the general technology of Docusaurus and what we wanted to do. And I took them through a website I had customized, and I gave them a zip it's in a repo. I gave them a zip of the repo they could play with. So they start with vanilla Docusaurus, which I'll show in a second. And they basically they eagerly worked on it through Wednesday and parts of yesterday. And what I direct them to do is basically, just take the top level Rust files that were in the repo and run them through Pandoc. And they did, and they figured out how to configure Pandoc so that we could actually convert it to Markdown. And they also figured out how to, they also figured out how to configure it so that they could actually output different Markdown for each section if you wanted to do that. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So let me share my graphical artifact and describe what I like to input on. And we can end the call and we can stay after if we want to just have some ad hoc feedback. Because that's what I need. I need information to pass on to developers because they're eager to produce things. And so here, let me share. Settings, I guess. Let's try this. Share my screen. All right. Do you see my screen? Maybe. Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Not yet. Do we need to make you a co-host or something? John, do you remember?
I'm hoping I don't have to do a weird reboot or something.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
No, just have the share button and it should come up.
Yeah, I'm getting an error message saying contact me, your system admin, if sharing is disabled.
Given the small size of the company you're in, good luck with that.
All right. So the question is, can I send a screenshot to somebody some.
Well, isn't there a way to make? Oh, is that a message from Google Meet or?
I think it's an operating system thing where I'd have to reboot. My
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay. Yeah.
At this point, but I don't want to delay the group.
Yeah. If you can post it in a link in the chat, one of us can display it.
It's not a. Yeah, there is no public link.
I guess if push comes to shove, you could turn your camera. You could turn your camera on and hold the document, and I don't know if it's a hard copy or not. You might have to pick up your laptop screen.
No, I want to share a hosted site, but it's only hosted locally. So yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to try and do is drop a screenshot in.
Just give me your IP address.
Slack. Yeah, I think if screen sharing doesn't work, that won't work either, Steve. So
okay.
So Steve, for reference, I had secured long time ago both packageurl.org.com, .io, and .net.
Okay, cool. Fantastic.
So we can use whichever we want and redirect all the other ones to that. The whole point was to avoid any kind of squatting.
Maybe I'm going to leverage Steve since he's online so in OWASP CycloneDX, I'm going to send you a DM with a screenshot if I can. And then if you could share that, I'd appreciate that. Then I'm going to send a second screenshot as well.
Isn't technology wonderful? Yeah.
No, it's funny, but the process on how you get file from computer A to computer B is not always easy.
Yeah, right.
There we go. All right. I'm sending now the second screenshot to you, Steve.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Okay, so let's see. Where's my share button?
I'm hoping you can share. Otherwise, somebody who knows they've given permission to their operating system, I can do the same.
There you go.
All right. So this is what a vanilla DocuSource website looks like out of the box. Okay. So what I say we have is we have real estate. We've got real estate, and I'll liken this to in my brain the game Civilization. All we have right now in terms of building materials is the specification REST file, maybe the Perl types REST file, and we have all this real estate to use up. So I want to understand, as a city planner, what things we can start putting here. So this is this generic homepage. The whatever links across the top, specification where you see tutorial. We can put specification there. You see there's a big, we can put a banner. And what I was looking at doing is borrowing some of the themes and some of the background images from CycloneDX to stay in the color scheme. So we're already looking at, I'm going to tell the students how to do those things in a second. But the images, what we feature on the homepage is up to us. And if I was referencing CycloneDX.org main site, and they have a big thing saying getting started, and they have tutorials and use cases and tool center and all these things in this middle section where you see these three images. And of course you have the trailer, the bottom part, where you can actually provide detailed links to CycloneDX or TC54 or so I just need to meet with Philippe or a group of people who help us figure out from a city planning perspective where we start putting things. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right.
I will probably mobilize on our side Adam, who's our community manager and is insanely good at these kind of things.
And I'll point out there's things like so let me describe the mechanics of how this works in basics. So what I've directed the students to do is they're building all this stuff directly into the package URL repo currently for convenience. And what it does is it basically installs DocuSource, and they have basically a set of npm node modules that get installed in node modules directory. There's a source directory and an image directory for like things that you want to reference from the actual source code, if you will, or the static websites. And then more importantly, there's a top level docs directory and a top level blogs directory. And in there you can put freeform directory structure where you put markdown files that you can basically just link from the static websites. So what the students, I call them students, but they're actually full-time IBMers. They're students of my course in IBM. So they basically say they're basically out, running this Pandoc tool. They're generating markdown into a docs folder. And then they basically are also generating the, so if you start the second thing, so what they do is, so we have the top level specification jump off point, which points to the top level markdown. So by default, this is what you get for free for any markdown file, which is basically you can create an explicit index down the left side of different things. So right now the students are able to create an index on the left, and you can actually call it, by default, you create 2 levels of indexes. We're putting all the H1 and H2 headers in, or the whatever top 2 levels in the left index, and they can automate that and as well. But for free, for every markdown, DocuSource automatically puts all the headers in the right side, every single header from H1 through H6 in the left side. So, and the spec is not large, so this is perhaps overkill. Yeah. But we can actually, customize the left index to say, here's a specification, so we can, so that beyond the real estate planning within the city hall, how do we want to, divide up the rooms in city hall basically, and how do we want to present things? I really like flat document structure, and having the right side. I think that's, that's low, there's like no effort to do that. And then the right side, we can actually, you can actually put more explicit links to other documents or other things on the right side, do things more manual in terms of here are the test cases, here are the actual Perl types or related documents, or some done the left side, I should say. That's what I would like to do.
So it looks like this, to a certain degree, with DocuSource covers a lot of the feature territory that we were previously using with RST, in general for read the docs, right? It's kind of a similar built-in. It's a built-in approach and solves the same.
Yeah, we can slice and we can slice and dice it however you want. Basically, I like keeping the specification as a whole document and a single markdown you can scroll, and you have the right index. You can just use as an automatic index into you, and then we can have some recommended links and jump off points or things on the right side to maybe to other docs. The left side to other docs, other things, other references and things. And we can also feature those things on the front page as well. So you can have linkage from if you dive into the spec, you get a linkage from there down the left side. You can also have featured links on the home page with graphics and stuff, whatever.
It makes a lot of sense because, for instance, I see we probably want to have a section which will be called adopters. That it's one of the page which shows people using it and how it's used, which. So no, it makes a lot of sense. I know it's simple and clean, neat. That's the way to go.
And what I didn't is not captured in the screenshot. So the beauty of it all, if you see GitHub at top, so you can actually point people to the the spec repo if you want to, or whatever repo you want. That's built in. That's easy. And again, I can change the banner, any of the links in the banner at the top, anything you want. But at the bottom, what you don't see is that there's a traversal as well. So if you actually add, you can actually set up a sequence. Anything you put in the left index, you can say next page, previous page, and it automatically creates a breadcrumb next previous trail for anything you put on the left side. And additionally, if you wanted to enable it, if any file you reference in Markdown has a direct corollary, a markdown file in the repo, you can actually have an edit button. So you can actually, it takes you to GitHub and actually edit that page where it exists in the repo. So people then can directly submit pull requests or issues against that page. So that's a nice feature we can turn on as well.
Great.
And you see blog, by default, blogs are disabled, but there's a blogs folder. So if we ever decide to start publishing blogs, you drop them in Markdown with reference images into the blogs folder in some in directory structure, and then you obviously we can add those to the index as well.
Yeah, it makes sense to have a blog. By the way, we're thinking about making a list of Perl sightings. That would be quite useful.
Yeah, I think blogs and case studies both would be incredibly useful.
I'm going to send it. I think that let me send 2 more screenshots to you, Steve, so people have the full visual of what I described. In a second here, it's got. If you're wondering why I kept logging out, it's because I was trying to organize my windows earlier. I got to hide some things here. Let's see. So I'm going to expand the index on the left and show you some of the what I just described in terms of breadcrumbs. So I'll just need one more screenshot, Steve. At the speed of screenshots. Come on. You can do it. Here it is. All right, here it goes. Here it comes, Steve.
Okay, got it. Download.
So you see is like you can see I expanded the sections on the left index, so you can get a visual of what that looks like. And you can see the breadcrumbs where you can see how I highlighted. I'm in the markdown for tutorials extras, and then it shows you can see previous and next. Congratulations, the managed docs version. You can see them as the previous and next entries in the left index as well. So that's kind of how it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really just nice and clean. So.
And once you see DocuSource and see this layout, then you can't unsee it, and you'll go to lots of sites. So you'll like, yeah, that's a DocuSource site.
I'm assuming you can make it because of the small sun in the upper right corner. You can have a dark mode.
Yeah, and actually,
otherwise, if you don't have a dark mode, your site doesn't look serious about security.
Yeah, actually, DocuSource has a hosted tool. And they have a great set of online docs. And what I did for sites I do is that basically there's like a color theme, a color theme that basically the CSS looks for that you can install. And they have a hosted site where you can actually enter your theme, and it'll automatically generate the dark theme by doing type of an inverse calculation on the RGB values. And you can tweak it if you like. So I have to show my students how to do that, but I mean, that was the next step once when I next meet with them, is to try to get a theme going to try and customize it. But obviously we'd like to get to the meat and potatoes of it all. And if we have a fire station, a police station, waterworks, and sanitation, whatever we want to put in there, I'd love to have them work on those things that fill out our city. So.
It looks very promising, very clean, nice clean layout. And,
Great.
it's excellent.
All right. So I think we're past the hour, so we're welcome to stay if you want. But otherwise, unless you have anything else to do, I will stop the recording for a start. Anyone want to bring up something else? Great. So.
Will I go ahead and stop it?
And yeah, you can stop the recording. Thank you, everyone, and see you online. And we can stay online if you want to discuss a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. So